everyone, this is Ellie of Earthcraft by Ellie Apothecary. Today I have some Astro highlights and Luna notes for you. I'm a professional astrologer. Links are in the description box if you like to book with me. I also offer now Oracle and Tarot plus psychic intuitive readings, separate services or all combined. And on that note, I will be pulling one card from the Kim Krans Archetypes book at the end of this video, or I should say audio recording. So, Astro highlights are different transits, retrogrades, and new and full moons. And my Luna notes are essentially the moon signs traveling through the zodiac, so what sign the moon is in, and it's usually shifting about every 2 to 4 days depending on how long that sign takes to transit. And different signs have different energies, so they have different lengths of time. Aries is known for being the quickest, so usually the transits are much shorter with the moon in Aries. And it's good to know about the different moon phases because you can learn what kind of energies kind of the collective is in. Because the moon affects our emotions. So if you know what sign the moon is in, you can get an idea of what kind of energy we are experiencing emotionally in the collective. And the collective is everyone, so remember that. So I can go into those details another time, but I thought today I would just break it down for y'all. You might want to grab a cozy beverage and pause this video, go get a notebook, or just save this video later to reference. I figured we would touch into a little bit of March, which we just passed, but this video is primary for April dates to note. And I will touch a little bit on May as well. So take a moment and we will begin. If you like the music, check out my Spotify. It's the same name as my shop, except it doesn't have apothecary at the end of it. I have links everywhere for these things, so have fun exploring. I might link it in the comments, we'll see. Alrighty, so if you are ready, for March, here are just the primary things without the Luna notes, okay? March 1st, Venus went retrograde in Aries to stay in Aries until April 12th. March 3rd, Mercury entered Aries, and it stayed there until the solar eclipse that was on the 29th. March 13th to 14th was the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. I read for time zones. I'm in Pacific Standard Time. So if I say this date to that date, it's because it's happening over midnight across the states. And I do mostly focus on states' time zones, but sometimes I expand from that. Anyways, that's my locale. That's where I operate. So we had the lunar eclipse in Virgo on the 13th to 14th. And then the next day, March 14th to 15th, we had Mercury retrograde, and it started in Aries, and it ends in Pisces. So that makes it a hybrid retrograde. So what do I mean by that is it shares 2 different signs over the retrograde period. And the thing is that if a planet retrogrades at near the beginning or end of one sign, it's going to possibly kick back into the previous sign it was in. So, for example, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So if we move forward on the wheel, Aries to Taurus, right, then we would be going backwards with the retrograde degree transiting back into Pisces, the sign before Aries. I hope that makes sense. That's pretty much what the hybrid retrograde has been. Okay? So March 20th through the 21st was the pagan holiday Ostara, which was the original Easter. I do have a pagan background, so if you'd like to note it, cool. If not, just disregard, whatever. I'm non-denominational over here, but that is my spirituality, so I note it. So also on the 20th was the spring equinox. The sun enters Aries until April 19th, and it was also International Astrology Day, by the way, which marked the beginning of the astrological new year. March 27th, Venus entered Pisces to stay until coming up April 29th. March 29th, Mercury entered Pisces to stay through April 14th, coming up. And the new moon solar eclipse in Aries was also on the 29th. Real quick note about eclipses. We have 2 eclipse seasons a year, usually one in the winter or spring and one in the fall or late summer, depending on when the eclipses fall, okay? So we will have another eclipse season coming up in a few months. All right, so March 30th, this is a huge mark on the calendar that happened. Neptune entered into Aries to stay until 2039. It has been in the sign of Pisces since 2011. Now we will slide back into the sign of Pisces from now Aries a couple more times over the next year and a half. Whenever we hit a Neptune retrograde, which is every year, just like all the other planets. It's not just Mercury that retrogrades. And if you don't know what a retrograde is, we'll talk about that. Maybe I'll create some astrology 101 videos in the future, but for today, we're just going to keep it brief, okay? So on that day, the moon also entered Taurus and the first quarter moon phase. All right, so this takes us up to April, where we're at right now. Now we're going to go through everything. I'm going to share the moon signs. So this is going to be a little bit more. If I'm talking too quick, please leave me a comment below and let me know, hey, is there any way you could slow down or whatever. I just get into the flow, and you know, if you got to pause it, go ahead and pause it and take notes. If you're just listening to know, cool. Enjoy the ride. All right. So going back to April 1st, which was 2 days ago, the moon entered Gemini. And today, later today, it's actually right after midnight as I'm filming this, the moon will enter Cancer. April 4th, the second quarter phase of the moon begins. And then April 5th to 6th, the moon enters Leo. And then finally, highlight this on your calendars. April 7th, Mercury retrograde in Pisces goes direct. All right, so you should know also that there is usually a 10-day shadow period at the beginning and end of a Mercury retrograde. The closer the planets that are to us, the shorter the retrograde. The further away the planets, the longer the retrograde, okay? So for Mercury, some astrologers will say 2 weeks, some will say 3 days. I always felt like 10 days was just the right amount of time for the shadow phase for Mercury. Okay, so even though it will be going direct on April 7th, I would mark on your calendars that the 18th of April is when we are completely out of the retrograde energy. Now remember, energy is energy. You don't have to look at it as a negative thing, just like anything else in life. You can look at it as something that you have to work with instead. So just keep that in mind, okay? All right, so The next day, on April 8th, the moon enters Virgo. On April 10th, the moon enters Libra. Again, if I didn't mention this, I share on my Instagram the Luna Notes every single day. If we are mutual followers, you can check out my profile notes to see more. Feel free to follow me over there. I would love that. And I'd be happy to follow back mutual content creators, artists, musicians, local establishments, etc., etc. So thanks for the support. All right, so let's see. April 10th, moon enters Libra. April 12th, second quarter moon phase begins, and it is also the full moon in Libra. The times for the states on the west coast is 5:22 p.m. On the east coast, it's 8:22 p.m. Also on this day, Venus in Pisces goes direct from retrograde, and Venus has been retrograde since March 1st. So mark your calendars for that day, April 12th, Venus goes direct. All right. April 13th, the moon enters Scorpio and third quarter phase begins of the moon. Then on the 15th, the moon enters Sagittarius, and the 15th to the 16th, Mercury enters Aries. So with the hybrid retrograde, I'll remind you that the retrograde started with Mercury in Aries. It slid back into Mercury in Pisces, so it's re-entering Aries, forward motion on the zodiac wheel in the middle of April. April 17th and 18th, Mars enters Leo, so Mars will finally be moving forward as well. We had a retrograde at the beginning of the year, and fortunately, Mars, the planet of action, by the way, does not retrograde as much as Venus or Mercury. It's usually about every 2 years, give or take a little bit of time. So we won't experience another slowdown like that for quite some time. So also on the 18th, the moon enters Capricorn. And this year, mark your calendars for this, Taurus season begins on the 19th or the 20th of April. You should know that there is traditional astrological dates. There are also traditional seasonal dates that are tied to astrology and the Celtic Wheel of the Year. So depending on your perspective, you could mark it as the 19th or the 20th. I personally always mark April 20th as the beginning of Taurus season. So on that day, the moon also enters Aquarius and the fourth quarter moon phase begins. On April 22nd, which, by the way, happy Earth Day to my fellow humans. I'm also an herbalist, so I'm sure I'll be doing something special on this day to observe the Earth. All right, so also on that day, the moon enters Pisces over the night, 22nd to 23rd. On April 25th, the moon enters Aries. April 27th, the moon enters Taurus and is a new first quarter moon phase. April 28th to 29th, the moon enters Gemini. And then April 30th, the end of the month, is the pagan holiday Beltane, a Sabbat, which begins at sundown and goes through the next day. Also on April 30th, Venus enters Aries to stay all the way until June 5th to 6th. So that is the Astro highlights and Luna notes in full for April. So let's take a glimpse into May. On May 4th, may the 4th be with you, my friends. Shout out to my dad in spirit who happened to love Star Wars. Anyways, May 4th, Pluto, the planet of transformation, goes retrograde until October 13th this year, 2025. So Pluto retrogrades are obviously much longer. But fortunately, I will say that we are not going back into Pluto and Capricorn ever again in our lifetimes. So that's something to celebrate. We are definitely in the age of Aquarius, folks. All right, so on May 10th, Mercury enters Taurus to stay until the 25th. The next day, on May 11th, by the way, mark your calendars, happens to be Mother's Day. And also on the number 511, it as a synchronistic number, it is a sign for huge blessings coming in sooner than you think. It can also represent a change in your community. So the next full moon will be in Scorpio on May 12th. And for more details on the month of May, you'll have to come back when I publish that video, which I will probably do near the end of April or the very first week of May, depending on my schedule. So thank you for hanging out, and we are going to pull an oracle card next. I have the Kim Kranz Archetypes deck. If you're interested in my tarot, timeless tarot readings, collective readings, I would check out my playlist. I've got a few I'll put in the description box, but I have one where you can find all my readings essentially, and it's called Divine With Me. And I have another playlist just for channeled messages. I am a psychic medium, so I channel spirit, and to me, spirit is everything. I'm an animist, so I believe spirit is everything. So just keep that in mind if you're interested in checking out more timeless messages. I also have a playlist, and I'm going to start shuffling this Kim Kranz deck while I talk. I have another playlist called Tarot Talk and Astro Tea. And what was it? Late February or was March, early March. I've been really busy with this whole YouTube thing. It's kind of a baby channel, but it's picking up speed, so forgive me if I don't remember exactly when I filmed, but I believe it was the beginning of March. I did, in that series, one for the Empress card. Ooh, okay, so I pulled the Flame card just now. I'm going to give it a read, and I will take a picture of it and use it as the pin on this video. I might share it to my social media as well. Maybe not tonight, but tomorrow for sure. I'm very active on my Instagram stories. Alright, so we got the Flame card L1, Roman numerals. This image is a red candle at the base of the photo, and it is a circular shaped photo because the oracle cards are circles, and the background is black. It's a triangle going up from the middle almost to the peak of the card, and the black turns into a deep red, behind the triangle is a second triangle that's slightly wider, black, that fades to orange, and then a third triangle behind that peaks above the other two, which is black into yellow. And then there is black and white minuscule dots in the background. And this portrait of this image makes me think of a mountain with the triangles, and the colors make me think of the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar chakra. Grounding, empowering energies. This is very, I suppose you could say, masculine energy type chakras, because with the root chakra we have physical security, with the sacral chakra we have emotional security, and with the solar plexus we have mental security. And again, energy is energy. We're not talking gender here. Does seem like it's kind of projecting towards something, which light typically does with a flame, right? So definitely project your lights. Ascend to peaks that will help you activate these chakras. Triangles are a very powerful shape. Perhaps you want to look up the different meanings of a triangle on Google. You can find all kinds of spiritual wisdom if you know how to phrase it right or you have good sources. I do love how all of these cards look hand painted, which they probably are. This whole deck is very unique because it goes through and the author gives all kinds of recommendations of different things you can check out for like deeper dives on the energies. So the flame is page 166 and 167 in the book for those of you that own the deck. It says the fire, the spark, the glimmer. When light, health, mental clarity, and good digestion. When dark, excess heat and anger and complete darkness. To go deeper, the light you give off by Rumi and Gerard Richter's candle paintings. The archetypal fire is at the beginning of all transformation, purification, and manifestation. Nearly every spiritual lineage honors the flame. And for those of you that don't know, the Wands cards in Tarot represent fire, spiritual energies, or energies of action, which is why I reference the root chakra specifically more as a masculine energy, because masculine energies are energies of action. Okay. We could go deeper on chakras another time, but I just wanted to share this from the book, and I'm not going to read all of it. But there is one more thing I will read here. To enliven the connection with this archetypal energy, practice the candle gazing technique called Trotaka. Notice how lighting a single candle in any space brings magic to the room and creates a sense of reverence. Beautiful. If you want to read the rest of the description, I definitely recommend the deck, Kim Cran's Archetype deck. Alright, well that concludes this video. If you're interested in an epic tarot quest, I shared 3 tarot readings in a row, one day after the next. It's titled Building Foundations, Part 1, 2, and 3. I had a lot to channel, and I didn't mean to connect the readings, but Spirit connected the readings, so it might help somebody. I have a very unique style of doing tarot, so if you have an open mind, you might enjoy that. Thank you again for joining me, and I hope this was useful. Feel free to leave a comment. Go ahead and drop a star emoji in the comments to let me know you made it to the end. Otherwise, I hope you have a great month of April, and I will catch you on the next video or audio recording. This is Ellie, signing off.